Have you ever noticed that when you start to feel bad for a character who usually plays the antagonist, it sends a bad message to the characters who are supposed to be the good guys? Well, that's what the Lao kids found out in the episode I'm going to talk about today. So join me as I, SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. Cue the intro! Today's episode is House Flip. In this episode, the kids injure Flip in a car accident and they secretly bring him into their house to take care of him without their parents finding out. I'm in agreement with so many when I say this episode is just horrible. It's nearly as bad as It's a Loud House where practically every lead character is presented terribly. It also doesn't help knowing the story is just as bad and how the conflict is set in motion. The kids are fighting over what radio station they want to listen to in the car, and this causes Lori to crash into their garbage cans. This would have been fine if it had just been a one-off incident, but apparently they have a history of crashing the van and for the same reason. I understand it's in their nature to fight over the dumbest things, but the fact these crashes are played off as everyday occurrences is just... God damn. So what happens when they're told they'll have their driving privileges revoked if this happens one more time? They crash the van again, for the same reason, mind you. And this time Flip gets severely injured because of their own stupidity. They couldn't even heed their own parents' warning from minutes earlier, and this time they cause bodily harm to another human being. It's even sadder when you realize Lenny is the only one who appears concerned about Flip's well-being, and everyone else is more worried about getting in trouble. Still, everyone agrees to take care of Flip, and yet they thought strapping him to the roof of the van was a good idea. Then Lori served as the distraction while her siblings tried to sneak Flip into their house through wacky cartoon methods, and even that showed how incompetent they were. Seriously, their first plan was to hoist Flip up to the attic window, and only after that plan fails do they suddenly remember they could have easily snuck him in through the back door. Their mom would have been none the wiser if they were actually thinking things through without having to go to unnecessary extremes, and they couldn't even do that. Just... how can they be this stupid? And don't even get me started when they did that thing where each of them kept rattling off the name of someone who might have been using the bathroom only for that person they just mentioned to show up. They couldn't go for a simple, I don't know, knock on the door and find out. But believe me, the kids are not the only characters depicted in a horrible light. The parents are also presented terribly when neither of them had to be. However, I'm going to be in the minority and let that little joke slide in the beginning where they said they got their parenting down to a science and yet they left Lily outside. I understand others find that joke unfunny and hypocritical, but I thought it was worth a quick laugh at the very least. I forget which other shows did the same joke, but honestly, this is hardly the biggest unfunny / hypocritical moment the parents endure in this episode. They tried to look tough in the beginning by dishing out the threat of discipline, and only to an extent was I on their side. They found out their kids crashed the van after they were warned about what would happen if they did it again, and they were about to lay down some well-deserved punishment. However, they seem more pissed off about their kids lying about what they had been up to with Flip rather than the fact they, sent a man to the hospital. That alone should have been enough to have every privilege indefinitely suspended. Unfortunately, it's only after Flip steps in to defend the kids do the parents suddenly have a change of heart and decide to only take away their driving privileges for the rest of the month. I'm sorry, but these kids sent a grown man to the hospital. I may not particularly like Flip either, but he didn't do anything to deserve severe bodily injuries. Those kids got a slap on the wrist for doing something that could have potentially killed someone. Not only do the parents look weak and hypocritical for giving out an extremely light punishment after talking up how bad their kids were going to be disciplined the next time their behavior caused another accident, these two end up re-injuring Flip the same exact way the kids did. Granted, they weren't fighting or anything, but the fact they caused the same accident again because of something to do with the car radio is just pathetic. I know the episode wants to play it off as comedic irony, but once was bad enough. Then again, Lynn Sr. is the same guy who was not only too easily distracted to see Flip strapped to the roof of the van when he was out on the road, but neither he nor Rita were smart enough to check to see if the van was damaged when their kids returned home. Seriously, they are completely unaware of any damage to the car until the kids finally say something. Clearly, this brand of neglectful stupidity runs in the family. And the strangest thing is the one character who comes off as the most sympathetic is Flip. Mind you, I didn't particularly like the way he was acting in this episode, even if it plays right into the kind of character he usually is. He was actually willing to get the kids in trouble while watching TV in the living room, the same place where the parents' bedroom is. And him being gross and obnoxious was just... well, do I even need to say it? However, when you really think about it, him being a disgusting jerk to the kids was perfectly justified. They were the ones who caused him a crazy amount of bodily damage, and he had to endure even more potential injury because of their incompetence. Flip eavesdropping on the cover story the kids were telling their mom was actually really smart. Even though it was a little cringy seeing the montage of the kids tending to Flip's every need and making fools of themselves for his personal amusement, something the parents are also prepared to do just before the episode ends, it's still kind of satisfying to watch. Flip taking advantage of the situation by having the Louds do whatever he wanted was a punishment they definitely deserved. The only sentimental things I can say about him would be he not only praised the kids for taking care of him, subsequently reducing their initial punishment, but he was also going to reward them with free flippies when they got their driving privileges back. I'm not sure why he needed them to wait until their punishment was over, considering the kids could just as easily walk to the food and fuel in the meantime, but you know it's a strange day in hell when you realize this cheapskate was the most tolerable and somewhat intelligent character out of everyone else. That really says something. Overall, I honestly don't know what else I can say without having to rant my way through this script all over again. This episode is among the worst of the series, plain and simple. All the kids except Lily were beyond incompetent and got off way too easily for their massive screw-up. Rita and Lynn Sr. were soft and hypocritical after trying to act like firm and responsible parents in the beginning, and Flip was the only guy whose actions and attitudes towards the lead characters were some of the most justified for an antagonist. The story was stupid, the comedy was mediocre, and the payoff was just downright aggravating. It's an episode that's honestly not worth watching. Trust me, you'd be better off skipping it. With that said, I give House Flip a 1.9 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of House Flip. So I gotta ask, what did you guys think of this episode? Sound off in the comments below, and be sure to click that subscribe button for more Loud House related content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.